Heena ji, can we start?
Yes, please.
So, welcome everyone. On behalf of JV London, I'd like to invite you all to the Sunday special session on Arihant Vandanavali by Shrimati Heena Vora ji, who is a Varish Shravika of JV London. Apart from that, also a JV London teacher. Over to you, Heena ji.
Thank you very much, Subhamji. We'll start off with Naukar mantra first. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Namo, Namo Sithanam, Namo Namo, Namo Ariyanam, Namo Namo, Namo Vachayanam, Namo Namo, Namo Loe Savasahunam, Namo Loe Savasahunam, Eso Panchanamu Karo, Sarva Pav Parasano, Mangalancha Savesim, Paramam Havai Mangalam, Paramam Havai Mangalam. I bow down to Lord Arhant. Jai Jinendra, everybody. I bow down to Samnijis and dear sisters and brothers. Good morning, Jai Jinendra and Pranam. As you all know, we have been doing this prayer, Arhant Vandanavali. It is to do with Bhagwan's, our Lord's five Kalyanak, and it's a beautiful prayer. So let's just start. As you know, we have seen some of the beautiful events in Arhant's life. But before we go on to any of these, I would just like to talk about last week's question from Channiji. So Channiji, your question was to explain a little more about the Swayam Sambhuta and Pratyek Sambhuta and those three different ones that we, and Bodhit. So there are three different ways, then one can get the knowledge. So the first one I would like to talk about is Swayam Sambhuta. As we already talked, our Arhant Prabhu, they get the message from within themselves only that it's time, it's about time that I give up all the worldly affairs. But there is another story I would like to cite it here, as I'll try and be short as much I can. So this in our Uttarayadhan Sutra, there is another story of Kapil Muni. So what happens in Kapil Muni's life is his father used to be one of the, he was holding a prime position as a priest in the king's kingdom. King was called Prasenjit. And since he was holding prime position, he was very well known in the whole of the kingdom. But suddenly he expires at an early age, and the child, his child, who is Kapil, he was very young at that time, so he couldn't take that place. So the mother one day saw another person who took that place, and she was crying, and the child asked the mother, why are you crying? And she said, just the way this other person, this other Muni is going, this priest is going, in the same way your father used to go, smartly dressed and looked very elegant, and he was it was the same thing and I really miss him. So the child says, Mom, you do not need to worry or you do not need to cry. Tell me how I can be like my father. How can I learn the things that he knew about all this? So the mother tells him to go to another town and learn about whatever the father knew as a priest. When he goes to the other town, obviously there was this acharya who was ready to teach him everything, and he started teaching. But his lodging was organized at somebody else's place, so he used to go for dinner, lunch and dinner to this other place in the town. So while he was going there, he met this lady, like a servant who used to serve him every day, and as he was going every day, they fall in love one day. And when they fall in love, they said, okay, we need to go and get married and settle down. Unfortunately, they did not have money to settle down on their own. So then the lady, the servant lady said, oh, there is one person in our town. He's very, very rich. And every morning, the very first person he sees, he always gives them gold coins. So if you go, then you will be able to get as well. So this Kapil Muni thought, instead of waiting for the morning, let me just start going from the midnight only. And he started going from the midnight. Unfortunately, all the king's people and all the soldiers saw king soldiers that he's going half night, and they thought he's a thief. Now, while he was going, they caught him and they brought him in front of this men of the king of that town. And the king asked, why did you want to steal? And he said, to be very frank, I did not want to steal. I was just going to go and get these gold coins because we wanted to settle down, as I love this lady. And the king realized that this person is very honest and he's saying the truth. So the king, that person said, today, you know what, instead of giving you some gold coins, I will give you lots of gold coin, or you can ask for anything that you want. So by having that permission, this Kapil Muni said, okay, let me go away for a while. He goes in the garden and he thinks, oh, what shall I ask? And of course, his mind travels like, the horse, like, he thought, okay, should I ask for 10? Then he thought, no, I should ask for 100. Then he thought, I should ask for 10,000. Then he thought, I should ask for 1 lakh gold coins. Yet, he was just not satisfied with his mind, and he wanted more and more and more. So, luckily, at that moment, there is this thought crossed his mind, and he thought, oh no, look, there is no stoppage whatsoever. Instead, I would like to not get anything, and because whenever you want something, there is no end to it. And for that reason, he just realized that, with all these worldly things, there is no end. And he thought, no, I don't want anything. So he goes back to the king and he says, to be very frank, I do not want any of the gold coins, but I got what I wanted. I have realized what I need to do. And this is how he renounces the whole worldly affairs and he becomes Muni. And then, of course, he goes on meditation and everything. He does it himself. And at the end, he realizes moksha. He realizes his own soul and he goes to moksha. So as you can see in this example, there was no one to tell him anything to follow the path of this realizing the soul or anything, but he just realized himself. And that is why this is the right example of Buddha Bodhi. So he realized himself, yeah? So Swayam Sambuddha, as we said, and of course all our Arhantas are also Swayam Sambuddha. The second one we talked about is like Pratyek Buddha. There are lots of examples of Pratyek Buddha in our Agam. Here I will just cite one only, and that is of Nemi Rajarsi. Many of you might know Nemi Rajasi, that what he did. One day he was very, very ill, and so many doctors, everybody came, but nothing. He had a itch on his body, and that itch would not just die down. They tried so many things. Then there was this doctor said that, okay, you should try and put some sandalwood paste. Everybody started to put all his wives. He had many wives, as you know, in those days, king has lots of wives. All the wives started rubbing this sandalwood paste, and there was a lot of noise of their bangles. And he told his mantri, that his right hand person, that, oh, with this pain on my body, this lots of noise is only making things worse for me. So then all the wives took all the bangles off, and they kept only one. As you know, in those days, one has to be there as the sign of them being married. So they kept one bangle, all of them, and suddenly all the noise went away. So the king asked his right hand man, where is this noise? How did it all stop? And the right hand man said, because they took the bangles off. And at that very moment, Nami Rajarsi realized that this whole thing is all about the outside. Our soul is so pure. It does not need any outside things. It just needs to be on its own. All the worldly affairs are just nothing but the noise. And he realizes, and with that thought, he goes back to sleep. And then he thinks to himself, if my pain will go away in the morning, I will renounce. And that's what happens. He renounces in the morning as the pain goes away. So this one is more to do with our, or like we have Bar Bhavna, 12 contemplations. So one of them is Ekatva Bhavna. So we have to contemplate only on our soul, because when we die, we are only going to go with our soul. Not everything else is going to be remained here. So the more we contemplate on our soul, the purer it becomes. And this is how this one is called Pratyeka Buddha, because this thing happens in his life, that an event happened, and that's what made him realize that one has to leave all the worldly affairs. And the third one is Buddha Bodhit. Another example given in our Agam about he's called Sanjajiya. So there is this Sanjajiya. He's a king, and also his name is Santatiya as well. So whichever you pick it up, and then he's a king, and he loved hunting. One day he goes out hunting, and so some of the deers, they went so far that he was really chasing them, and they went as far as there was this one Muni who was meditating under the tree, and all the deers went there. And as King followed them, he went there and he saw this Muni who was really meditating, and he got so scared of that Muni, because he thought this Muni looks very highly soul person, and then if he is going to curse me and my kingdom, we will be nothing, we will be all burnt. Like, that's what they think in those days. Some Munis had that thing in them, that if they curse anybody, they can burn everything down. And he got really scared. So he really apologized to that Muni. And the Muni came out of his meditation, and Muni made him realize, look, how scared you were, but is Abhaidan, I am not going to do anything to you. So rest, be assured. I am not going to kill you. I'm not going to kill any of your, nothing of your kingdom either. So, but from today onwards, I want you to follow this path. As as I have given you this life, you must always give life to all the living beings. And from that day onwards, this king followed Jainism, and this Muni preached him so much. So by his preaching, he started following the Jainism, and he realized the importance of any living being. So not only that, but there came another Muni in his life later on, and he also preached him all about Jainism. And this is how Sanjay Muni got moksha, by listening to all the sermons and following them and putting them in the practice. Okay, so as you asked, I have just given you 3 different examples of 3 different ways that we all can achieve the real knowledge of our soul. Chaniben, are you happy with this? Does that clear your query? You can unmute, or I will just continue. So this, as we continue with our Arihant Vandanavali, this is the beautiful prayer as we talked about, and it talks about Bhagwan's Panchakalyanak. Okay, so and it's been translated by Chandulal Sakarchand Shah, and I have based it onto Muni Shri Jayantilal Maharaj Sahib's lectures on this prayer. Okay, so we move on. And as you know, we have done up to 17 gathas. So we have seen Bhagwan's conception and the celebrations of the birth, his education and his marriage and everything. And we also saw how all the Lord Indra and everybody prepares for Lord's Diksha and everything. So we are on to the Gatha number 17. And as usual, I will sing this Gatha first, and then I will go into it. So just for you all to remind, I'm just going to scroll along all the gathas that we have seen. As you can see, this is his conception, and then his birth celebrations, and then he is just being, all this is all his birth celebrations, and now he's when he's younger, and how he looks, and how he is being taken care of, and see how when he gets young, how he looks. Yeah, and not only but the inner but outer virtues as well. Okay, so here we had done it up to the Gatha number 17. As you can see, this is all we have already discussed. And now today I'm going to start off with number 17. So Shri Vajradhara Indrera Chela Bhavya Asana Upare Besi Alankaro Tyaje Diksha Samaya Bhagavanta Je Je Panchamusti Loch Karata केश विभु निज कर वड़े एवा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूँ नमु मारा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूँ नमु. As I requested all of you to sing the last line with me when I sing, although you can't unmute, but just sing it with me so you get into the bow of this prayer. Please do so. So you can say, Eva Prabhu Arihantane Panchanga Bhave Hu Namo. Mara Prabhu Arihantane Panchanga Bhave Hu Namo. As you all know, we are not repeating the meaning of this because it is common in all the stanzas, and you know the meaning of it, that the poet is so he gets so overwhelmed that he keeps bowing down every time when he talks about Lord Arhant. He bows down with all his five limbs and so much of joyful emotions that he just bows down. Okay, so now let's talk about this stanza here. Let's look at the translation first. So at the time of his Diksha, Bhagwan sits on a beautiful seat prepared by Vajradhar Indra and removes his jewelry, beautiful clothes, and pulls out, that is, plucks out his hair, which is Panchamusti Loj. To such Lord Arhant, I pay my homage with five limbs namaskar and joyful emotions. So here we will talk about Panchamusti Lodge. Just to tell you one thing that here it says the Vajradhar Indra, that so this Indra is one of the top Indras, one of the top god, and who holds the Vajra, that instrument, and that is why he is called Vajradhar Indra. And he is the one that he prepares the seat for our Arhant Prabhu. Okay, so now let's talk what is Panchamusti Lodge. A Jain religion is the beauty of renouncing everything, like we believe in renouncing everything. Lord is giving up everything, including his love for his hair in the Ashok forest. It is very deep question. Why Panchamusti Lodge? I will try and explain as much I could gather, but it can be a lot more to it. So that is Panchamusti means five fist lodge. As you can see in the picture that Lord is plucking out his hair with the fist, and this what they do 5 times. Okay, so now the reasons may be, okay, the pain. So some people say, why so much pain to the body? So the reasons may be, all the very highly elevated soul, for them, they don't believe in the pain of body. So they believe that the body and the soul are different. But until you have body, these are just the words, maybe for us. Yeah. So the other thing is, to do lodge is very difficult task, but it is the test for the diksharthi, the one who renounces, to check if they can still stay in equanimity during this painful process. Also, it prepares them for not having any attraction towards the other parts of the body. As you know, even in Uttarayan Sutra, they talk about 22 parisa. Those are the situations that when you take Diksha, you come across, and they are all like not, they come just like that because they are all natural. And one has to be really prepared for all that. And that is like too much heat, too much rain, and things like that. So in the same way, this is the test for them, how much their body is ready to take all those natural pain. Okay. And then the third reason could be, it is the inanimate part of the body. The hair is inanimate part of the body. Also, to stop having attachment to any part of the physical, also less to take care of. So that is one reason. And also, it is less thing to take care of, as when they are going to travel from place to place to propagate religious religion. As you all know, if we don't comb our hair, if we have lots of hair, there are problems of having lice and things like that. And that is going to take some of their time. And the time is so crucial for them that they want to really get involved with religious activities. So this could be another reason that they do not waste this time. The fourth one is, it is compared with the weeds that the farmer needs to clean the ground completely before he sows the new seeds. In the same way, the hair, which is, let's compare the hair with karma. Yeah. So the karma is deeply rooted in karman body from time immemorial, and it keeps on producing it. And when one starts on ascetic new life, he also needs to clean up his previously rooted um, karmas, which is hair-like karmas, okay, in karman sarir. And then only punya bij will start developing. As you know, only the fresh seeds will only start developing if you clear out the old ones, and then which will help him to reach the moksha path. So until all the karmas which are bound before are not eradicated, they cannot progress on the spiritual path. And the fifth one, as the farming does not succeed without hard work of clearing the ground, one has to be very tough and work hard to eradicate previously bound karmas. And that is why Panch Musti. What is the meaning of Musti? So Panch is obviously you all know 5, and Musti is the fist, is a type of grip. One cannot work with soft grip. As you know, when we want to do something really strong, we need to make a fist. In the same way, when someone is doing a fist with perseverance, then only is going to succeed. Okay, and why 5? You may ask the question, why 5? So 5 is compared to 5 yog or 5 mahavrats and so on. So thus, from both, from the dravya and bhav, the poet has justified this act, and thus Lord plucks out his hair 5 times. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. If you have any questions, obviously you can ask me now, or you can ask me towards the end of the session. Okay, right. If no question, I'm going to move on to the next one. लोकाग्रगत भगवन्त सर्वे सीतने वंदन करे, सावध्य सगड़ा पाप योगो ना करे पचखाणने, जे ज्ञान दर्शन ने महा चारिग्न रत्न त्रयी ग्रहे, एवा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूँ नमो, मारा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूँ नमो. So let's look at the translation. Bhagwan bows to all the siddhas who reside at the top of the universe. He takes the pachkan, that is vows, and renounces all sinful activities. He accepts the path of 3 jewels, which is right knowledge, right faith, and right conduct. To such Lord Arhant, I pay my homage with 5 limbs namaskar and joyful emotions. So there are 2 things we can talk about in this stanza, which is a very important aspect before anyone takes this diksha, and this applies to our Lord Arhant as well. So these 2 are vandana and permission. Okay, so here Lord is bowing down. Lord, normally any diksharthi would bow down to their acharya or whoever they are taking diksha from. But here Lord does not have any guru. So what he does, he bows down to the siddha who are on the siddha before starting on his journey and asking for permission. As for him, there is no guru. And there is also another custom that before they start, they say Namo Siddhaya, Namo Sanghaya. So thus they bow down to the whole congregation, the Sangh, as well Avrat, Savadya Yog and Ashubh Yog. They give up and say Karemi Samayam and accepts the Ratnatrayi. that is right faith, right knowledge, and right. Um, uh, so those are the three jewels that they start following, and they like we take when we do samayik, we take permission in the same way Lord takes the permission from Sangh as well, which is I think is so beautiful. Even though he is Lord, he takes this permission. Okay, right, let's move on to the next one. निर्मल विपुलमति मनः पर्यव ज्ञान सहजे दीपता जे पंच समिति गुप्त त्रयनी रयण माणा धारता दस भेद थीचे श्रमण सुंदर धर्मनु पालन करे एवा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे ऊनमु मारा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे ऊनमु. So here, let Bhagwan now, with his top quality, pure telepathic knowledge, looks even more elegant. He wears the garland studded with jewels, like 5 rules of conduct, which we call samitis, and 3 rules of restraints, which we call guptis, and follows the 10 rules of Shraman Dharma. To such Lord Arihant, I pay my homage with 5 limbs namaskar and joyful emotions. So now there are a few things to discuss here, which are, I think, beautiful. Now, so as you know, Tirthankar Bhagwan already have 3 knowledge, as we discussed before. So when they are born, they have 3 knowledge, and as soon as they take Diksha, this Mana Parya Gyan comes to fruition. So they get this Mana Parya Gyan, which is telepathic knowledge, and that knowledge is direct knowledge of the thoughts of minds of others. It is without the help of any medium or agency. Manaparya Gyan is an extra sensory perception. Manaparya cannot be achieved by ordinary persons. Only a soul in its higher progression stage or at its higher gunasthanak, as we know, there's ladder of 14 steps, gunasthanak, may acquire this type of knowledge. So here, as soon as Bhagwan takes Diksha, he achieves this Manaparya Gyan. And then, of course, he follows these samitis. So what is samiti? Samitis that purify the actions and make them faultless, while guptis are prohibitions against sinful activities of mind, speech, and body. Both are equally necessary for the spiritual upliftment of soul. Collectively, all 8 virtues are known as Ast Pravachan Mata. I just would like to say one thing here, that even though Lord is doing all this has been described, but he was far, far away from this. He was already following all this, but this is to guide the Shraman path. This is all been described, as I feel. Now, there's another thing Lord follows is 10 virtues as dharma. Which dharma? As we know, Digambars celebrate their Paryushan by celebrating 10 different virtues of our dharma. So Lord is again following the same thing. And those are supreme forgiveness, humility, straightforwardness, truthfulness, purity, self-restraint, penance, renunciation, non-possessiveness, and celibacy. How beautiful these virtues are. And Lord is always trying to stay on this path with all these virtues. So, as I said, as Lord is already in that state anyway, whereby he is already following all this, but it just beautifies his look, inner and outer, by describing all this. Now, I would just like to explain what are the five samitis and guptis. So the one of the first one is area samiti, that is regulation of walking. One should walk carefully, looking forward about 6 feet distance, so as not to cause the pain or death to any living being. Then there is Bhasa Samiti, which is regulation of speaking. One should avoid the 8 faults of speech during conversation. The 8 faults are anger, pride, deceit, greed, laughter, fear, gossip, and slander. Always use sinful and always use sinless and concise speech. Then is Eshna Samiti, which is regulation of begging. Monks should search and obtain pure food and other articles necessary for use, and to use the same in a faultless manner. Then there is Adan Nikshep Samiti, which is regulation of taking or keeping. One should lay down or take up an article of use very carefully so as not to endanger the life of small creatures and insects. I think this is also very important for us Sansari people. The more careful we are, the more lives we can save. And there is the fifth one, which is Utsarga Samiti, which is regulation of disposal. One should dispose of waste things such as mucus, urine, stools, and other items in a solitary and out of the way place in a proper manner so as not to cause any inconvenience to anybody by becoming a source of nuisance, unsanitization, or contamination. This waste helps the growth of germs and also the indirect cause of their death. So they have to be very careful once they start walking on the Sraman path. And then there are 3 guptis. Which are they? The man gupti, which is a regulation of mind. One should guard one's mind from impure thoughts such as anger, hate, curse, greed, jealous, ego, etc. Always be forgiving and devote the mind to pious meditation. I'm sure we can all do this as well. Then there is Vachan Gupti, that is regulation of speech. One should guard his speech so that it might not utter harmful, harsh, careless, foul, senseless, embarrassing, or bad language. I'm sure we can do this as well. And then Kai Gupti, regulation of bodily activities. One should guard movement of his body so as not to hurt others, walking with an eye on the path so as not to harm or kill an innocent life, such as ants, bugs, etc. One should not daydream while doing any activities and develop decent behavior and manners. That's what it means. So these are some of the things we can easily follow. So I feel this is just to give us the insight of this path, and then how beautifully we can also save lots of lives. Okay. Here we'll move on to the next one now. पुष्कर कमल ना पात्र भांति नहीं ले पाय जे ने जीवनी माफक प्रतिहत वर गति विचरे आकाश नीचे मनीरा लंबन गुण थकीचे ओपता एवा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूनम मारा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूनम. So Bhagwan, who does not get stained like the lotus leaf and who keeps moving like the uncontrollable and independent soul. He shines with the virtue of independence just like the sky, as it needs no support. To such Lord Arhant, I pay my homage with 5 limbs namaskar and joyful emotions. So here now, poet is comparing Lord with quite a few natural things. So this stanza and the next stanza is all about the comparison with all different things. Poet compares him with one thing, he still doesn't feel satisfied, and he starts with another, and he starts with another. So just like that, this one and next stanza is about that. So let's look at how, as you can see in the picture, he is compared to a lotus flower, as the flower remains detached from the mud and the water. It is a very popular example in Jainism as how we should be. We should not get attached with all the sansari life. Living in sansar, be aloof from the sansari matters as much you can. Maybe not good. And so now the poet thinks this is not good enough because it is stuck to the ground. Therefore, he now compares Lord with Jeev Dravya. As you know, Jeev has to keep traveling from place to place. No one can violate this. So does Bhagwan keeps traveling place to place independently. No one can or no situation can stop him. But again, depending on the karma, soul's karmas, it travels. Therefore, poet is not satisfied. So lastly, he is comparing Lord to the sky, and the sky gives space and support to all the dravyas, but it does not need anyone's support. Similarly, Lord does not need any support, but he is the refuge for all the living beings. So he is even more vibrant than these attributes, as there is nothing that we can compare his virtues fully, but the poet is saying this as he is depending on Lord uh, and feeling very unsupportive and asking Lord for the support, and thus he bows down. Right? Then we go on to the next one, which is very again similar stanza. Ne askhalit vayu ne askhalit vayu samohani jem che nirbad che sango pitango pang jena gupta indriya deha che Nisangataya vihangashi jeno amulaka gunache eva prabhu arihant ne panchang bhave hunamu મારા પ્રભુ અરિહંત ને પંચાંગ ભાવે હું નમું. So here poet is again comparing. So he travels without any attachment or tie, like air which flows continuously and freely. His limbs and subsidiary limbs are fully controlled. He has absolute virtues like a bird who has no companion. To such Lord Arhant, I pay my homage with 5 limbs, namaskar, and joyful emotions. Now, here he is compared with wind, and just because he has got 5 controlled senses. Also, he is compared with a bird as how frailly the birds fly without any companion. And thus, his virtues are totally absolute. Poet is still carrying on comparing Lord's virtues. He is compared with the winds, just the way wind does not stop, or it does not mean to harm anything or anyone. It has no favoritism. It is everywhere in the universe, as you all know. So Lord is, so as Lord. His five senses are there, but they are totally under control because the senses variabilities are all under control. He can be anywhere and everywhere. He does not get moved with the senses requirement. So physically, he has those five senses, but their requirements are dormant. He is compared with a bird. Here, we just have to take the example of birds flying virtue. Okay, so only that virtue, as they do have the place to go to. But by residing at one place, they keep flying far away. Same way, from Dravya Kshetra and Bhav, Lord has fixed properties, but keeps flying like a bird, as his preachings are everywhere and anywhere. Thus, Lord's going from one place to another is fascinating, and the poet bows down to him. Yeah. So by just comparing, as you know, how far the poet is gone. Now we go on to the next one as again, this stanza is all about Lord's comparison. So खड्गी तणावर शृंग जेवा भावती एकाकी जे बारंद पंखी सरिका गुणवान ने अप्रमत छे व्रत भार वहता वर वृषभनी जेम जेह समर्थ छे एवा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूँ नमूं मारा प्रभु अरिहंत ने पंचांग भावे हूँ नमूं. So Lord's thoughts are like the highest peak of the mountain which stands alone. He is virtuous and alert like the parent bird and like a strong bull. He can carry the burden of his vows. To such Lord Arhant, I pay my homage with five limbs, namaskar, and joyful emotions. So here Lord's thoughts are compared with the highest peak of mountain, or some places is being compared with rhinoceros. So let's look at it. His thoughts are like the highest peak of the mountain which stands alone. He is virtuous and alert like the parent bird, and his strength is compared to the bull. So let's see, Lord's thoughts are compared with the highest peak of mountain. Why? As it is in the midst of all the ditch, small mountains, and so on. But it still seems very strong and tall, standing alone. So as Lord, or as is been compared somewhere with a rhino. As you know, rhino has only one horn, but he is very, very strong. He can do so many things with just one horn. Same way, Lord is just one, but he is amazing how much he has taught to the world. So, and Lord's alertness is compared with a bird called Bharand Paksi. As you can see in the picture, Bharand Paksi has two face, yeah, and and two neck, but it has to be so careful when he eats the food, as it has to go into the right throat. If by mistake it goes into the second one, other one, then he will die straight away. That is how Lord's alertness is. He is so careful. And there is another belief that this bird with his two face, one face is always looking out for his safety, that nobody is trying to catch him, and the other one he is using to look out for the food. In our Agam, many places This example has been used for our Tirthankar. It also gives the message that you look after your own physical and spiritual development, and at the same time look after the people around you as well. Always be very vigilant. So, and then Lord is compared with the bull as Lord's strength of carrying out his vows are compared to bull, as a bull is very strong. He's capable of carrying really heavy loads from one place to another. Lord is also capable to carry out his vows from with lot of strength, as we know that a weak or a coward person is not capable to follow the vows. I would just take our example. Even if we have to fast few days or one day, even for a person like me, it is just so difficult. But look at Lord, he was in meditation for that long, hardly ate anything, and he survived, and he gave such a beautiful message to all of us. So thus, Lord is compared here with all these different nature things. I think I will stop my talk here and will continue next week. So if I have said anything against Jainism, and if I hurt anybody, I say Michami Dukram, and the floor is open for you all. If you have any questions, please ask. Thank you. Any questions?
One question.
Yes.
Yeah, how do you compare Bharanda Pakshi?
Yes.
Is there Bharanda Pakshi available today in any Jew or any part of the world?
No, dear. No, this we cannot. It is not. We cannot see it, and it is not. He is not around at the moment. But apparently, in Agam, this has been described everywhere. So this one is, I think, can be found only on I would say Meru Shikar and those very auspicious places.
Do you think it is like imagination to make someone alert to, okay, one body and two person together? So in that context, is it like imagination?
I would say it is imagination. I would say so, but of course, Agam, we cannot dispute anything, and it is imagination. And if you really compare unto the same, we have so many different positive and negative virtues within us. Yes?
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. So it is just that how we want to maneuver our life. The more positive we are, the better spiritual progress that we can do. So I would say it's just a comparison, but we learn a lot from this comparison, don't we?
Yes, very important.
Oh, I didn't realize, Samniji, it's you. You can talk a lot more than I can.
No, just I opened it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so no, it's good. You answered very well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and delivering lecture for JVB. And
Thank you for giving me chance, Samniji.
And I'm doing Mangal part.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heena Ben. Bandami na po sa amin.
Thank you. Chanidi, was your question clear?
Sorry, I joined late, but I look it up in the YouTube.
Yes. Okay.
I was a bit late joining.
No worries.
So I will go through it, and thank you very much for another lovely presentation.
You're welcome anytime. Thank you all for listening. Samniji, yes, Mangal Path.
Chattari Mangalam, Arihanta Mangalam, Siddha Mangalam, Sahu Mangalam, Kevali Pannatto Dhammo Mangalam. Chattari Loguttama, Arihanta Loguttama, Siddha Loguttama, साहु लोगुत्तमा केवली पन्नत्तो धम्मो लोगुत्तमो चत्तारि शरणं पवज्जामि अर्हन्ति शरणं पवज्जामि सिद्धे शरणं पवज्जामि साहु शरणं पवज्जामि केवली पन्नत्तं धम्मं शरणं पवज्जामि। ये 4 शरणा सगा और सगो न कोय जे भव्य प्राणी आदरे अक्षय अमर पद होय। आज के लिए कोई वस्तु का धारणा प्रमाणे त्याग करेंगे। ओम अरम।
ओम अरहम।
वंदामी नमस्सामि।
वंदामी
नमस्सामि।
हम सब आपके आभारी है, कृतज्ञोस्मि। हम सब आपके आभारी है, कृतज्ञोस्मि। हम सब आपके आभारी है, वंदामी नमस्सामि। एंड थैंक यू
रोशनी
एवरीबॉडी
हम
फॉर
सबके
जॉइनिंग।
आभारी है।
Thank you, Hina Ben.
You're welcome.